This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast. Thrilled today to be joined by one of our favorite guests, one of the most brilliant people that understands the cannabis industry almost better than anybody else. Mark Peysakhovich is with us. Mark, suddenly, cannabis stocks, which has been getting slaughtered, down 55% over the last year, suddenly there's life in those stocks. They're moving in the right direction. Can you tell us why that is and what's happening that's giving some life to the cannabis industry again?
Yeah, it's actually great to talk to you on an occasion when we can talk about movements in the positive direction rather than the negative direction. I think there's sort of the main thing happening is a reaction to the reintroduction of the Safe Banking Act. So the industry, I think, is hoping, and the investors are hoping, that the industry will be able to bank legitimately soon. The fact that capital markets are closed to the cannabis industry continues to weigh really heavily on it because it's very hard for people to grow doing, all stock deals when the stocks are tanking. So the fact that there is some up momentum is good for the industry in all sorts of ways. But with that said, the Safe Banking Act, I think, has been introduced, I don't know, maybe a dozen times before. There is initially some exuberance, and then things calm down, and we sort of settle into the reality of, well, is anything going to get done? So it's too early to celebrate. And look, I read somewhere this morning that I think the ETFs that led the upside last week were Bitcoin and cannabis.
Our favorite vices. And let me ask you this question about this: the cannabis area. Where's the Republican House yet on cannabis? Are they pro, against, in between? Where are they at on this?
I think there's several dynamics going on. Generally speaking, cannabis has been one of those issues that has allowed some Republicans to come on board because, after all, they are all about individual responsibility and freedom of choice and getting government out of people's lives. So I think based on that philosophy, it's certainly easy for some Republicans to say, well, look, I'm not going to, sort of perpetuate the war on drugs that, everybody's complaining about anyway. Maybe some way to make some revenue. I may know somebody who's got cancer who's benefited from cannabis. And so, let's put it this way. Cannabis is no abortion. There isn't that sort of wide dividing line that's very clear. So I think the main issue with Republicans in the House and, well, Republicans in general is that at this point, they're reluctant to give the Democrats progress or any kind of a victory or any kind of an accomplishment. And so I think rather than ideology driving this particular issue, there's going to be sort of politics driving it. And the question is, can the industry and its advocates out-politic the, sort of entrenched interests that benefit from the status quo? I think that's really where this is going. It'll be fascinating to watch.
Thank you very, very much. Now, Mark, while the Republicans and Democrats are both somehow or another, there's a great percentage, they might not admit it, but who they or their kids or their parents smoke or indulge somewhat in cannabis. It's and there's multiple different things going on, but lots of people at least have tried or use cannabis and so forth. Even Bill Clinton famously said a long time ago, "I never inhaled," which none of us really believe, even if we like Bill Clinton. But the next question for you is: there is this situation where cannabis right now is being taxed so heavily and regulated so heavily that a huge percentage of the cannabis business is staying in the illegal market. Do you have any sense of the percentages of that? I know people talk about different percentages, but anything you've heard recently about how much business has stayed in the the illegal markets versus the legal markets based on such high taxation and other things?
Well, I think that's almost a more complicated distinction nowadays, Scott, in terms of the legal market, the illegal market, because just as important in terms of, let's say, anyone who lives on the border of Missouri is not only the fact that, they can call somebody on a corner and try to get something, they can also just drive across to Missouri and get much cheaper cannabis at a lower tax rate, where there's more supply because, there was more loose licensing. So what is absolutely true is not so much competition right now between legal and illegal, which has not changed a lot because of price, but also because of many other factors, including that, in Illinois, you can get somebody from way back to stop at your house and drop off an eighth. You can't get a dispensary to do that because delivery is illegal. So there are many reasons, emotional, practical, financial, why people are incentivized to stay in the illegal market. But beyond that, there's sort of a new boogeyman in town. For example, in Illinois, sales are really sort of flat for the most part, or not rising as quickly as anybody would like to see them rise, in part because a lot of people have started going to Missouri. We used to have dispensaries on the border that were, more than 50% Missouri license plates in the parking lots. Some of those dispensaries were doing the best business in Illinois. Now it's a reverse, and I read something a few days ago where a cannabis entrepreneur from Missouri was saying, well, a lot of these people from Illinois, they already come here to get their gas and cigarettes cheaper, so now they'll get their weed too. And I sort of chuckled because it resonated with me as much as a human and a consumer as it did, a cannabis expert, quote unquote.
No, it's fascinating. And obviously, in Indiana, you used to go get their gas or fireworks or other stuff, and now maybe they get their cannabis there too. I don't know what the Indiana situation is, but no, fascinating. Missouri really is the show me state here, where they've showed us you could tax it a lot lighter, grow it a lot cheaper, and all of a sudden people are going to Missouri to get their cannabis versus Illinois. It's really fascinating. All these calculations that politicians do, and I don't mean to rant on this, seem to always be wrong. Like they calculate, well, this much revenue coming in, but they so bastardize the deal that the numbers are so pretend and fake that they don't really lead to that much revenue, even though it's led to serious revenue. Really fascinating. Mark, my favorite segment of talking to you is what are you trying currently, whether smoking, ingesting, eating, whatever you're doing, what are you suggesting now? Where are you at on that?
Well, I continue to experiment and am enjoying shopping lately. And I'll tell you what, I have been, more than a kind. I've been sort of shopping for at discounts, and this is just related to our segment just now, Scott. A lot of the stuff that I'm smoking and using came at significant discounts. You're seeing my dispensary and dispensaries in general offering very significant coupons and percentages off and incentives for, people who are registered for that program, you get your bonus points, et cetera. And so, what was interesting to me is I went out recently, and now the important thing is that I can use a medical card because I registered as a medical patient, so I pay barely any tax at all. I think maybe like 1%, which, I advise everybody to do. But in addition to that, I went out and bought about 1.5 ounces for $300 total after coupons and discounts. And so you're now talking about a $200 ounce in Illinois. Obviously, you have to take some doing to get there, but I really recommend that people look for those deals because they are definitely out there.
When you say a $200 ounce, what does a typical ounce cost when you buy it from a dealer or something like that? What was the cost of that?
Well, when I was in the what I call the legacy market, I think generally speaking, I was buying an ounce for, let's say, $450 or somewhere thereabouts. And so, if I was shopping in the regular market without a medical card and without anything else, I could probably expect to pay around the same thing, maybe $400. As it is, I was able to make it work with half that money. So the savings are pretty substantial, and there are more incentives to move into the legal market as it becomes more of a commodity rather than a novelty.
No, thank you. That's so fascinating. Like if people buy, I guess, flour, they really know how much ounces they're buying. If they're buying like 5 joints, something like that, in the multi-pack calendar, and not for me, of course. But the question mark is, what's in that? Because that can't be an ounce then, because that's a lot less than, $400 or whatever the number is.
Yeah, absolutely. But like everything else, you pay for the convenience. So the joints come in, usually sort of half gram or gram joint is, I think our sort of standard. You're certainly paying more per gram than if you bought an ounce of the same thing. And that's sort of buying in bulk that we've always known with any commodity or product. But also,
right, because there's 454 grams in a pound, so that
correct.
30 grams or so in an ounce. Got it.
Correct.
Something like
28
that.
grams. So if let's say you do a half gram joint and charge $10 for it, or $15 for it, or $20 for it, you're beginning to see the money add up. To me, obviously, it just depends on what you're doing. If I'm, in another state where I didn't pack anything, and I'm going to a party, and then I'm, going somewhere else, and I don't want a bunch with me, then I pay for the convenience. If I'm at home, I shop bulk.
So that's fascinating. So it goes 28 grams in an ounce, and an ounce costs about $400. When you get 5 of these joints, you're getting about 2.5 grams worth, or 3 grams worth, 4 grams worth. So a heck of a lot less than a full ounce. And you're paying about $70, $80, $50, whatever the number is. But you could see, obviously, somebody's arbitraging that pretty well and making some money. They're paying a ton of taxes. There's banking problems and all kinds of other things. But that's the math on it. That's fascinating. I mean, I learn something every day, Mark. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I think that, it's interesting to cannabis users everywhere that their, favorite, pastime has become an issue of dollars and cents, like most of the rest of their lives. So in some ways it's good, in some ways it's bad, but I bet we'll persevere.
It is literally fascinating. No, I appreciate it very much. Thank you, Mark Peysakhovich, for joining us today. I always learn a lot about what's happening, why the market's gone up a little bit recently, why it might not stick there, what's going on with the Republicans and Democrats in this issue. What are people, smoking, eating, whatever they're doing. And the cost of it is fascinating to me. Thank you so much. I now have a whole education now that you're paying a premium for getting the convenience of pre-rolled and stuff like that. Not me, but I assume for other people. No, I'm just kidding. We do periodically smoke indica to help me sleep. That's my vice in terms of the pot business. There you go. Mark, thank you so much. No, it's very helpful. At least I understand now the dynamics and the economics of it. I always feel like it's fair enough. It's fine. I mean, I'm not a heavy smoker, so I don't worry about the ultimate cost because I don't do it enough. But I do try and switch out of some of my sleeping meds or sleep medication to trying to use cannabis periodically and trying to figure it out. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for joining the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast. Always a pleasure. Don't let Grace, our producer, know that I do try it sometimes, okay?
You got it. No peep from me.
It's our secret. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Scott. Good to be with you.